I've been on a plane when they've asked if there's a doctor on board, and of course, I'm not that kind of doctor. I've never heard anyone ask, is there a sea ice scientist on the plane? That doesn't happen. So the opportunity to actually put my pretty specialized expertise to use for a greater public good that's a reason to get out of bed. My name is Andy Mahoney, Research Assistant Professor of Geophysics here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I'm the resident sea ice nerd for ADAC, and I'm involved in a number of projects related to forecasting and understanding ice and ice hazards. The first ice hazards project had three basic goals: identifying, tracking, and communicating sea ice related hazards in the Arctic. The first two parts of that is applying scientific methods that we've already been using from a geophysical or a climatological perspective to understand the ice, but looking more closely at those data, looking more closely at our observations to understand, are there hazards that we're detecting, and if so, how can we communicate that information to the folks who need to use it. We've been using some well-established technology. We've been using a radar that we've run in Barrow. UEF, we've actually been running it since the 1970s, but consistently for at least the last 10 years, we've had a coastal radar running to watch the sea ice drifting past the coast in Barrow. Initially, our interest was understanding the geophysics of the sea ice, but after demonstrating the product to the local community, it became apparent to us that this was actually a really useful tool for the locals to understand what the sea ice was doing while they were out hunting in the springtime or while they were going out in boats later in the season. The sea ice information that the radar provided was really useful to them. One particularly poignant example of that came in 2014 in April, when there were some whaling teams out on the sea ice when the landfast ice detached and drifted away from the coast with those hunters on it. It happened during a period of extremely high winds, which is certainly one of the hazards of being out on the ice during those conditions. It also meant that the helicopter couldn't take off. So the locals were forced to consider a small boat rescue, and the visibility was severely compromised, but the radar was actually able to see through the fog and track the piece of ice that the whalers were on, and that helped guide the rescue team safely toward the folks who were stranded on the ice. And very happily, it all ended with everyone being returned and all equipment being returned safely to shore. And so that was like a real wake-up call for us that, okay, we knew it was helpful for us, but this is really a tool that's helpful for the community as well. And of course, I think the Coast Guard, if they became involved in a search and rescue situation like that, would also find it useful. I live and breathe thinking about sea ice most of my waking day, particularly when I'm at work, and I try to get away on vacation occasionally. But there are people who live and breathe sea ice and it's not their job, it's because of where they live. You know, I try to keep in mind, I try to keep that front and center when I'm doing my research, that I'm working in somebody's backyard, so to speak. There really is value in these continuous observations. A lot of these events that happen, ice hazards, they're episodic, they don't last a long time, so the only way you're going to catch them is if you're actually watching continuously. So it's very hard to respond unless you're already there, and it really demonstrated that the community that has the most eyes out there, so to speak, right now is the scientific community. And I think it was really validating to see that information that we're collecting could be repurposed to help a whole different stakeholder group in a very rewarding way.